Can you mention some of the main short-term and long-term consequences of hosting a mega event?
Yeah, for most of the hosts end up losing quite a bit of money. There are cost overruns at every single Olympic Games. Sometimes the cost overruns are 3 or 4 or 5 times higher than the initial bid. So what you have to be ready for is a massive public expenditure of billions of dollars over and above your revenues. That's the main economic result. It doesn't always happen. Some cities do it better than others, but as a general matter, you can expect to have large cost overruns and a substantial public subsidy. Very often there's a problem with what we call white elephants. These are stadiums and arenas that are built for the games that don't have very effective use afterwards. Either they're used very infrequently, or they're used at low revenue events, or they're not used at all. So sometimes you build facilities for hundreds of millions of dollars and they go to waste. Not only do the facilities themselves get underused, but they generally take up 5 or 10 hectares of land, and so you're losing the opportunity for the land as well. There's often a claim that hosting the games will bring more tourism, more foreign trade, more foreign investment. The scholarly studies on that question don't bear that out. The news is not very positive on that front.
What can you do to improve the process of hosting a mega event?
One of the things that you can do is, back to what I was just alluding to, is a city, if it can have a development plan pre-existing that it wants to do to its city, and then use the Olympics to fit into that plan, maybe to facilitate and further develop that plan, then it can be a workable and successful outcome. That is not what usually happens. Another thing the city can do is simply realize that the odds are stacked against it and decide not to do it at all. But, you know, on a broader scale, what can you do with an international monopoly? In the case of FIFA and the Olympics, these are terribly, terribly popular events. So you have one product, you have one seller, it's enormously popular, and it's international, which means that there's no national body to regulate it. And so it's very hard to say this is how we think FIFA should behave, or this is how we think the IOC should behave, and then make them behave that way. If I had a magic wand and I could simply wave the wand and say this is what's going to happen, I think what I would do is I'd say to the IOC and FIFA, you can tell your host cities and your host countries to build as many venues as you want. The only condition is that you have to pay for them. The IOC has to pay for them, or FIFA has to pay for them, not the city, not the country.